Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So you've been thinking about getting a bike from the 90s? Well, buckle up, because today we're about to dive into a topic that's more nostalgic than a leather jacket in the back of your closet. The best used motorcycles of the 1990s. Want reliability? Check. You want fun? Oh, it's in there. You want something that won't break the bank? Well, guess what? I've got you covered. Now, I know what you're thinking. Can a bike that's over 20 years old really be worth it? And honestly, you're right to ask. But let me tell you this. If you pick wisely, these bikes could be the best purchase you'll ever make. So instead of letting you go down the rabbit hole of overpriced vintage junk, I'm here to show you the top 10 motorcycles that will give you the real 90s experience without emptying your wallet. Before we jump in, I just want to take a second and say a huge thank you for all the support on the channel. And if you're new here and enjoying the content, do me a quick favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. Believe it or not, over 98% of viewers watch these videos without subscribing. It won't cost you a thing, and it helps me out massively in growing the channel. Thanks, and let's get into it. Alright, up first is the Honda CB500E. This bike has been around long enough that most of you probably already know it's a solid performer. Built between 1993 and 2003, the CB500E went through very few changes in its decades-long run. And let me tell you, sometimes no change is the best change. Under the hood, it's rocking about 58 horsepower at 9,500 RPM and 48 Newton meters of torque at 8,000 RPM. Not exactly mind-blowing, but this thing loves to be revved up. It's got that sweet spot where it just screams to be pushed. And guess what? The 170 kilogram dry weight makes it as nimble as a cat on a hot tin roof. And don't get me started on the tight corners. But wait, there's more. This little beast comes with an 18-liter fuel tank that'll give you a range of up to 325 miles. That's right, 325 miles. It's built for commuting, but you can load it up with luggage and turn it into a touring machine. Or slap on some clip-ons and give it that cafe racer vibe. Up next is the Kawasaki ZX-9R. This one's a bit of a legend, isn't it? No need for a fancy introduction, this bike speaks for itself. The fact that it sold like hotcakes back in the day is exactly why it's such a steal now. Sport bike fans love the newest, flashiest model, and that's music to our ears because it means deals on bikes like the ZX-9R. Seriously, you can find one of these with barely a handful of miles on them. When the ZX-9R dropped in the 90s, it was known for having a seriously powerful engine. The engine was practically unburstable, and the seat, plush. Way more comfortable than many other sports bikes of the time. It wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, but that engine, it was brutal, addictive, and let's be honest, it caught a lot of riders by surprise over the years with its raw power. Now the later C model was a different animal, lighter, more track-oriented, and a bit more hardcore. But the thing is, Kawasaki listened a bit too much to the track day crowd, and in doing so sacrificed the comfort and ride height adjustability that made the earlier models so approachable for everyday riding. Still, the ZX-9R, especially those earlier versions, is still holding its ground at track days, hanging tough against newer, faster machines. CBR 600 F2. Some of you might be thinking, wait, isn't this a bit of a cheat, since the CBR 600 was first introduced in 1987? But from 1991 to 1994, Honda brought the CBR 600 F2 to the table. And let me tell you, it's a whole new beast. It came with an all-new steel perimeter chassis, and if you're a fan, you'll know them affectionately as the Steelies. Now, if there's one bike that screams classic CBR, it's the F2. Sure, the Yamaha FZR 600 may have snagged more race wins, and the Kawasaki ZXR 600 might have been a touch faster, but the CBR 600 F2 absolutely crushed them in sales. Why? Because it just worked. The sleek bodywork hid the braced perimeter frame, and under the skin, it was packing a 599cc engine that pushed out around 100 horsepower at the crank. Around 90 horses were making their way to the rear wheel, which could send this bike hurtling towards a genuine 150 mile/hour top speed. Over the years, Honda kept refining the CBR 600, but the Steely, it's a track day favorite for a reason. It delivered impressive power for a 600cc bike, wrapped in Honda's reputation for bomb-proof reliability. Even today, you'll see heads turning when this bike rolls past. The gearbox? Slick as butter. The suspension? Perfectly tuned for both road and track. And get this, the CBR 600 F2 was way more comfortable than most sports bikes of its time. All things considered, it was the complete package. Honda really had their work cut out for them trying to improve on this one in later years. At number 4, it's the Triumph 900 Trophy 3. When Triumph was resurrected in the 90s, no one really knew what to expect. The company took on a modular approach, designing a flexible engine base with 2 different block sizes. The 900 engine was far superior to its smaller 750cc sibling, and when it landed on the Trophy 900, it found its perfect home. Now, the sports touring market was competitive, but no one else had a big triple like this one. Well, except for Benelli. But let's be real, we all know who the big player was here. That engine sound, that syncopated throb from the exhaust is completely addictive. And when you crack open the throttle, the surge of power is smooth, relentless, and feels like it could go on forever. The fueling from the Mikuni carbs was nothing short of magical, and I'd argue it was better than most modern fuel injection systems below 3,000 RPM. But just like any other bike, it has its flaws. First, the Sprag clutch. It was a bit of a weak link, and if it went, it was a massive pain to fix. Triumph wasn't exactly keen on admitting it was a production fault, so good luck getting them to acknowledge it. But here's the thing, if you keep your battery 100% charged, say a few magical incantations, and hope for the best, the clutch might run for years without an issue. Mine had over 85,000 miles when I sold it, and I've known plenty to go past 100,000 miles. Still, if you don't have any proof that the Sprag clutch has been replaced, be prepared for the cost and hassle. All in all, the Trophy 900 is a fantastic bike, but with some quirks that you'll want to be aware of. If you can live with the potential issues and the occasional ugly fairing, this bike is a blast. Next up, let's talk about the Yamaha XJR 1200. Built from 1994 to 1997, and then the XJR 1300 carried the torch until 2018. A phenomenal 24 years on the road, which frankly is an incredible run for any bike. Now, picture this moment in the Yamaha boardroom. They've had some success with the FZR range, but they were consistently outsold by Honda. So, they needed something new. The 1993 launch of the GTR 1000 had cost millions in R&D, and it, well, let's just say it didn't set the world on fire. So, one brave, or maybe reckless genius pipes up. Why don't we just stick the FJ 1200 engine in a naked bike? Now remember, this is the early 90s, and every other brand is slapping plastics on their bikes. Everything is streamlined and aerodynamic. So when Yamaha went, nope, screw that, we're going old school, it was a bold move, but it worked. And you know what? It wasn't just the idea of making a naked bike, it was the execution. A simple twin-loop cradle frame, a ridiculously powerful engine, and suspension and brakes that could actually handle it. It was the moment when Yamaha actually listened to what riders wanted. Now, if this bike had come out a little later, we'd probably call it retro. But honestly, that doesn't do it justice. The XJR 1200 was modern in every sense of the word. It just happened to be built the way bikes had been done for decades before. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't top of the class in any single category, but it did everything right, and it did so for 24 years. For a big bike, the XJR handled surprisingly well. And with all those years of production, you can bet your boots that aftermarket parts are as plentiful as gossip about celebrity scandals. The engine was built to last and could take the kind of thrashing that would leave lesser machines crying for mercy. This bike was simple, reliable, fast, and honestly, that might have been the only design criteria Yamaha needed. Coming in at number 6, we've got the Harley FXDX Super Glide Sport, 1999 to 2001. And I already know this one's going to stir the pot. Harley riders will be yelling, "Why on earth did you pick that one?" while the non-Harley crowd scoffs. There's no such thing as a bargain Harley. But hey, I've never been one to go for the obvious choices. And full disclosure, I've got a personal soft spot for this one. Still have mine to this day. Contrary to what everyone says, this bike handles great. In fact, I've chased down much faster bikes on it. I do check the cam followers religiously, but they've shown no signs of wear or issues that the naysayers love to point out. So here's the deal. The carb-fed 1450 twin-cam engine paired with the Dyna chassis is an awesome combo. I'm not a fan of feet-forward pegs, so I go for the mid-pegs, but that's just personal preference. What you're getting here is a comfy mile muncher that can accelerate from 50 to 90 much quicker than you might think. Plus, the engine and chassis have a ton of aftermarket parts available, probably more than most other bikes. The Dyna chassis has now been discontinued, and since these bikes are so popular, you bet the prices will go up over time. If you can get a hold of a twin disc model, the brakes are noticeably stronger. Personally, I wasn't a fan of the single disc front, so if you can score one with adjustable suspension, you're on to a winner. Next up, we've got the Aprilia SL 1000 Falco, which sneaks in here thanks to its 1999 debut. It often gets overshadowed by the Miele and the Tuono, but in some ways, that's what makes it such a bargain. The engine is from Rotax, tuned a bit softer than the Miele, but still packing 118 horsepower and over 95 newton meters of torque. Trust me, that's no slouch. Now, I know what you're thinking. Isn't it just another sporty tourer? Well, not exactly. It's not as roomy as those big, plush touring bikes, but it also isn't as harsh as your typical sports bike. It finds this sweet spot in between, with a dry weight of just 195 kilograms, fully adjustable suspension all around, and a comfortable riding position. The Falco is incredibly agile and a joy to ride, no matter the road. Plus, let's not forget, it's got some of the most stylish modern Italian design going. Seriously, it looks like it just rolled out of a designer's dream. Now, prices for the Falco are as low as they'll ever get, and most Aprilia owners seem to really take care of their bikes. That means you're more likely to find one that's been properly maintained, and that's a huge bonus. Take care of a good Falco, and not only will it give you an exhilarating ride, but it'll also hold its value and stand out in the crowd. It may have slipped through the cracks at first, but with these sleek lines and that sweet performance, the Aprilia Falco deserves to be on your radar. Next up, we've got the Ducati ST2, which, like the Aprilia Falco, wasn't exactly the star of the show when it landed in 1997. But let me tell you, this bike has its own charm. It's got a strong engine, derived from the 2-valve per cylinder Peso engine, which gives it stacks of torque. And that trellis frame, straight out of the 916. Now, we're talking about a seriously solid Ducati foundation here. But here's the catch, it didn't quite have the top-end power of Ducati's most sport-oriented bikes. And well, let's be honest, that's what most Ducati riders were after. I've heard it described as the gentleman's express, and I have to agree. The ST2 is a grand tourer, a bike built for long, comfortable journeys, which is a little different from most of the Ducati lineup. The bike carries almost 23 liters of fuel, meaning you can go the distance without stopping every 5 minutes to top up. Next up, we've got the Yamaha XJ900 Diversion, which came onto the scene in 1994. After the GTR 1000 debacle, Yamaha needed something to get back on track, and boy, did they deliver with the XJ900. Now, let's be clear, this bike wasn't born out of some wild burst of innovation. Nope, it's more like Yamaha went rummaging through their bin parts, mixing and matching a few bits here and there, but here's the thing. Even though it wasn't breaking new ground, the XJ900 was far more than the sum of its parts. Sure, it didn't have the heart-pounding power of the FZR 1000, but let's be honest, how many of us are really going to use all that power? The XJ900 had plenty of oomph to get you where you needed to go without ever feeling underwhelming. No fancy suspension? Who needs it when the bike was set up perfectly for the real world, right out of the factory? Plus, it was detuned for maximum reliability. And let's not forget that lovely shaft drive. Talk about low maintenance. The fairing, taken from the FZR, made long-haul touring feel like a breeze, and the engine's smooth, reliable performance made for some serious road miles. The only gripe I've got with Yamaha on this one is the 5th gear. It's long enough to be a bit of a stretch on the highway, and the 6th gear would have made it just that much smoother. But honestly, that's a pretty small complaint in the grand scheme of things. If you're looking for a practical, reliable, and comfortable bike that can go the distance without any drama, the XJ900 Diversion is perfect. And finally, we've got the Suzuki GSF 1200 Bandit. Now, I know the Bandit 1200 often gets called retro, but honestly, I think that completely misses the point. The 1200 Bandit isn't just a throwback, it's the ultimate universal Japanese motorcycle. It's the kind of bike that will do whatever you need it to, whatever the weather, and still manage to bring a grin to your face every time you twist the throttle. Whether you're heading to the shops, commuting to work, or ripping through twisty back roads, the Bandit handles it all with ease. Honestly, think of it like a golden retriever. Always happy to join in on whatever adventure you've got planned, and way tougher than you'd expect. The Bandit's got the added bonus of a huge aftermarket scene, and if you're into tuning, you can tweak the GSX-derived air and oil-cooled engines for days, It's also got a design that stood the test of time pretty well. With just under 100 horsepower and around 90 Newton meters of torque, the Bandit has just enough grunt to keep you going well beyond the speed limit. Until next time, ride safe, ride fast, and keep chasing the horizon. See you in the next video.